My first videos were taken with a Sony Cyber-Shot. 10.1 megapixel lens, and it worked pretty good. When I first started making videos, I used this little Sony Cyber-Shot with a 10.1 megapixel lens. It worked pretty well. It's handy, it's rugged as hell. I carried it around in my pocket for 7 years. Still works fine. And the only bad part is it only does 720 resolution. And it has a very short life on the battery. When I first got the Sony, I only had one battery. That meant that I could go about a half an hour. Half an hour video, the battery was dead. At the same time I was taking video for YouTube, I was using the Sony for work. I write work instructions. That means that I take a lot of pictures and I do a lot of Excel work. The Sony did a great job taking pictures. 10.1 megapixels. I got good resolution. I could blow them up. I could show the parts very well. And for a printout on a piece of paper, you're really not going to get much better than that. But at the same time, I was taking video with the camera. That meant that after a half an hour running, the battery was dead. At about the same time, the charger that came with my Sony camera came up missing. Don't know what happened to it. Could have got left somewhere. Who knows? I still had the battery that was in the camera because I carried the camera and the battery in my pocket, but the charger was gone. So I ended up buying a new battery charger, this one, and 2 batteries. Those 2 batteries then gave me an hour and a half's worth of running, which was a big improvement. But they don't hold a charge very well. They were second-tier batteries. They weren't Sony's. And they'll hold maybe 20 minutes. By the time I got all done with it, I was down to about an hour and 10 minutes of video. But I still had to change batteries quite frequently, which made it more difficult to run a video camera because if you're not watching the camera, the only way you know the camera shuts down is the lens retracts. But it's already stopped videoing. You've lost all that time. After using the Sony for a couple of years, I decided if I was really going to be doing videos, I should get a better camera. 1080p was state of the art at the time, and so I decided that I was going to get this Nikon S8200. Nice camera. Does 1080p. High resolution. Much better than anything that I had before, and it has some really great features. It's got a larger screen in the back, but even with all these fancy features, it was still push the button, camera starts, push the red button in the back, and you're recording. So with the Nikon, it came with this little charger that you plug the camera into, and if you plug the camera into anything else using the USB port, it won't charge. It only charges through this little wall wart. Well, that wasn't very successful. So just like with the Sony, I bought another battery charger and 2 more batteries. These EN-EL12 battery packs are really bad. They're knockoffs of the worst kind. They'll run maybe 10 minutes now, if they'll charge at all. But I was able to keep running the camera because I had enough batteries. So I finally ended up buying another Nikon battery, which is an actual battery to fit the camera. It lasts a lot longer. I was back up to a good 2 hours worth of video, and about that time you notice that my videos got longer because I had more shots to choose from. About a year ago I bought this Canon EOS 70D. Great camera. Highly recommended by a lot of YouTube video makers, and I'm pleased with it. Much nicer camera. Has a lot more features. Came with a telephoto lens. I only got the one telephoto lens. I bought it at Best Buy, and they're not necessarily the camera experts, but the guy steered me right. He said if you get this lens, which is a 18 to 135, That's going to get you most of the focal lengths that you're actually going to be working with. It lets me do close-ups. It lets me do distance shots. Nice thing is, it's easy, it's not way too heavy, and it didn't cost me a ton. Still got about $2,500 in this thing sitting here. By the time you go with the tripod and the camera and the lenses and the microphone and all the other stuff, it gets expensive. The thing I like the most is this little swing out lens. Lets me actually watch the video being made so that I can tell if I walked out of the shot. You'd be surprised how many times you're working on something and you realize later that you were videotaping the wall when you really should have been videotaping the vise. So it's one of those things that makes life easier. All this power comes with one problem. It takes a lot of power to run it. This is a pretty good sized battery pack when you compare it to the one for the Nikon. This is an LP-E6 camera battery. And this particular one is a knockoff. They're about 20 bucks. The Canon batteries cost about $65. Canon batteries are better. No question about it. Canon batteries are better. But $64. Canon battery has lasted the full time that I've had the camera. Still works good. Still takes a charge. These knockoffs don't last anywhere near as long. Called a Power Extra battery. They're all made in China. Different manufacturers. You can tell because the outside printing is a little different, and sometimes they're just weirdly spelled. The labels are a bit hard to read sometimes. But compared to the battery that came with the Nikon, you can see the size difference. This one takes a lot of juice, and the Nikon took more than the Sony did. This battery should run this camera about 2 hours. When it's fully charged, it should do just fine. But the more you use the telephoto lens, and the more you use the features on the camera, the faster you run through the batteries. It takes juice to run that LCD. It takes juice to run the motor on the servos. Every time you turn it off and turn it on, it takes power. This isn't a self-powered microphone. It actually runs off the camera, so it takes juice too. All of that combines to bring the battery life down to about an hour, hour and a half. To make that work better, I bought 2 extra batteries, and I bought a power shoe. Power shoe holds 2 camera batteries, which should give me, if everything's working right, and I'm not doing a whole lot of fiddling around, should give me 4 hours of run. Doesn't quite, it's about 3 hours. Best 3 hours. If I had all Canon batteries, I'd probably get 4. But the little ion battery packs will run the camera quite well. And with this extra shoe, I was actually able to run a good steady 2 hours worth of video. That's pretty good. But then the batteries, these little cheap battery packs, started dying on me. I'd run them in the charger and they'd go for an hour. They were getting down to about 45 minutes. Sometimes one of the battery packs actually only gave me about a half an hour. So the batteries were dying on me, and I decided I needed to do something. So I was going to buy new batteries, and I did the whole cost versus value and came up with the conclusion that I was going to buy 2 more of these cheap batteries because 64 bucks is 64 bucks. Rather spend basically $25 to get 2 batteries on Amazon than spend $128 and get 2 batteries through Amazon. Cash. That's all what it amounted to. At the same time that I bought the batteries, I wanted to address a problem that I had with all 3 cameras. The Sony, the Nikon, and the Canon all came with a single battery charger. Works. Charges batteries okay. It's got a little charge indicator on it. But it's only 1 battery at a time. Now I had a shoe that took 2 batteries at a time. That meant that I would have to charge 2 batteries, each one taking about an hour and a half to charge, so I could do 2 hours worth of video and then slip a single battery in there and limp along for the next hour and a half while I got 1 charged. Then it was a constant roulette, changing the batteries, changing batteries, changing batteries. I decided I needed to get another battery charger. Something I should have done when I bought the Nikon. So I went on Amazon and I looked for battery chargers. And I found this one. AC input, 100 volt to 240 volts, so it's international. And it'll take DC 12 to 24 volts. It's a Chinese made unit. Nearly everything electronic is made in China anymore. Maybe Trump will make a difference on that too. If we're going to make pipe here in the US, we probably should be able to make batteries here in the US. Be that as it may, this charges 2 batteries at once and plugs into the wall. Or it'll plug into the car if I need to. Cool thing about this, it has a high setting and a low setting. High setting means fast charge. It'll take a dead battery and bring it up to full charge in about an hour. 2 of them at once. At the same time, these batteries had stopped taking a charge pretty much altogether. They would only run a half an hour. When I first put them into the battery charger, it said 70%. Now I had full charge on the batteries. Even the Canon. All the batteries that I had read 70% full charge. So I put them in here. The batteries that were dead actually took a charge. They came up so that they would run back to an hour again, which is a huge benefit. I no longer am crippled by only having one charger. I now have actually 3 chargers. I can charge 3 batteries at once. But this one charges the batteries better. It actually does a higher charge on them and puts more juice into them. And it takes these old dead batteries and it rejuvenated them back to the point where they're now working. I have 5 batteries for the Canon. That means 2 full sets for the shoe, plus an extra. That means I can run pretty much all day. I do have to change batteries out about every 2 hours. This additional charger lets me run the camera while I'm charging the batteries. And then, as soon as the batteries in the camera are dead, I have a spare fresh set. It only takes a couple minutes to slip them out, slip new ones in there, and I'm back running. So it makes the life of a videographer a lot easier if you don't have to chase around trying to find batteries. So that's my review on a camera charger. I bought 2 extra batteries when I bought it. They're lithium-ion, ultra-high capacity, reliably battery pack for digital camera and camcorder. Made in China. So now I get back to making actual videos, and I'm going to go back to using the Canon. It's a lot easier. If you have any suggestions for a new video, questions about today's video or any of the other videos on the channel, just drop a note in the comments. You know I read them all. Thanks for watching. These batteries have something that is kind of handy, but not completely. There's a little arrow that points which way the battery is supposed to be inserted, but it's black. So I take a little bit of a paint marker, just make that mark a little bit easier to see. First ones I used white out on, and it worked okay, but wiped right off. It's a paint marker, it's there permanently.